Today we're gonna be going over Toha as requested from the community. You guys voted for it through the YouTube community post, so let's dive in to the ultimate guide to Toha in 2024. Hello everyone, yes, smash a like, comment and subscribe for more daily videos with me, Mason Sneaker, and we're here today with the ultimate guide for Toha. Since you all voted for it again for the massive monumental time, hitting over nearly 500 votes, which is crazy to see every single time when we put one of these posts out. So thank you for every single one of you that votes. So what we're going to be doing is, like always, breaking down all of the skills, going down his pairings, then going down the artifacts and war pets, and finally we're going to go down the different talent pages that you can be running on the main boy Toha, right? So let's just break down his skills firstly, because these are the things that obviously make him, and to be honest, since the rework of him, everyone, and we can all agree, these new skill ones is amazing. This is what obviously makes Toha an absolute monster, right? So the first skill is Earth Conduit. It's a passive based skill, meaning you don't actually need any rage to do this. All it means is as long as you fulfill that first requirement, which is at the top line, you will continue to basically do this, right? So after launching 3 normal attacks, Toha will channel Ranger Plateau, dealing damage up to the target every second for up to 3 seconds, right? So what he basically does here is he summons 3 big balls, and these balls deal 500 skill damage factor directly to that target once you've launched 3 actual normal attacks. It's really powerful skill, and it is insane. And you can see it has a cooldown of 4 seconds, just to make sure that you don't obviously go crazy. However, what makes this even more powerful as a hero skill 1 is you do get that chance to reset, right? You can reset the hero skill here with a casting of a rage skill. So what you can actually have is the 3 different, buffs, and then he could fire his balls, then you can have a rage skill going, and then he gets his balls immediately back so you can fire them off again, then wait the 4 seconds, right? So you can get some really nasty combinations depending if you want to choose to have your Toha in that primary slot where you will get that effect, or in the deputy slot where you don't really maximize on that same effect as well, right? So when we're going into the second skill though, this is honestly something you're not too interested in unless you're a spender. It is the Garrison ability. It just gives you 20% attack when you are garrison and you're above 50% units, right? Which is very key, because it means obviously when you're above 50%, you're doing the most damage with this march. But now when we're going into the next 2 skills, this is where things start going a little bit crazy with this hero, right? We get Shaman Mastery, which is the ability that we just gain 30% extra hero skill damage bonus, and we do lose normal attack damage, but as you guys know, we're a mage, we don't really care about that normal attack, we all care about his skill damage factor. So this is insane, so this is a nice 30% buff to all of those balls that way we're going to be sending out, right? And then on a 4th skill, which basically finishes him off with most of his actual gains in passives, is when he does channel that skill 1. So when you start channeling, as soon as you get that balls going, boys, you will trigger the 4th skill, meaning you're going to get 15% counter attack damage taken reduction and a 35% defense bonus, which is insane because it lasts for 5 seconds. And what you're able to do is technically trigger the balls if like the skill 1 after 3 normal attacks, and even if you're not going to fight someone and you get targeted a lot, you can just walk away and you still maintain these buffs because it is for 5 seconds. It's a really good way of just not taking damage and obviously getting in and out of situations. So really do like this skill. When you do finally awaken him, you are going to get another passive skill on top where you finish channeling those 3 balls, and when you do channel all 3 balls, you're gonna get a massive attack steroid of 35% for 5 seconds. So this is really good, and to be honest, when you read a lot of these skills, it does want Toha personally in that primary slot. Because if you have him in the primary slot, the next hero, so basically your deputy, is going to get the bonus of that 35% for 5 seconds, right? On top, you're going to reset as well the skill 1, allowing you to do more damage sooner to a march, which is very, very key when you're trying to prioritize how you're going to pair this hero, right? So now we've gone down those skills, let's just quickly go over the value on it, right? Because as you can see, I have him at 5111, and you might be wondering, is he good at 5111? And to be honest, he's been okay for me. I'm not gonna say he's been bad, but he's nowhere near getting the same merits as my other mage marchers or just any of my other marchers in the game, right? So maybe once you get him a little bit more skilled, and what I would recommend personally, if you are able to do it, is just to get a 5155 if you're just looking for a minimal based investment. However, to get the maximum potential, to be honest, out of this hero, where you get to see those insane reports, awakening him is the game changer. When you have all of these insane steroids on your march, it's just so many stats that you are taking advantage of. So this is why it's so powerful to have him awakened, right? So if you're wondering on the charts, let's just say 5111 is like maybe like a 4, maybe 5 out of 10. The 5155 I would definitely say is like an 8 out of 9, maybe out of 10, right? Easily between 8 or 9. But once you get him awakened, he's a 10 out of 10 hero. He does insane single target damage that's just clearly unmatched for the mages, right? Which is really impressive to have technically for the future of a mage hero identity, right? So let's go over now those pairings. The pairings that you all probably wondering, right? And we'll go over, obviously, the pairings that you will know, most likely know, which is going to be Toha and the Bertrand, right? These two are made together again, and you can imagine why, is mainly because Bertrand's second skill, right? Whenever Bertrand's basically Legion deals hero skill damage, and it does give you a context of this, triggered by skill damage, but not by continuous damage. So basically nothing like Lilia or even an ensnare trigger from Alwyn cannot trigger this, right? But any actual just point blank flat burst skill damage will increase this. He will gain 1 stack of golden mark, and he gets a maximum of 3 stacks, which gives him 10% extra hero skill damage bonus per stack. So that means with your Toha, you're gonna get, for a brief moment quickly, a 60% hero skill damage bonus, because then Bertrand will fire off that skill and increase his damage dealt bonus by 5%, and as you can imagine now, it will reset this boy's skill, and that's what's so powerful by actually layering it in that way compared to actually having Bertrand in the primary, right? And there is obviously pros and cons for both, and I will say that, and it's mainly down to the talent tree choices of picking Bertrand primary over Toha primary, right? So if you're wondering, or you're going to ask in the comments which one you should have, it's always down to the talents that you want to run on those said heroes, right? So let's actually go over some other actual really good pairings. And one really good pairing that I really do enjoy with Toha that I've seen is Valen. Valen and Toha is, again, this one match I thought would do really, really well when I saw Toha for the first time. Because for me, Valen does everything you kind of want on your Toha, and it actually helps him because of 2 factors, right? You're gonna be dealing a nice AoE damage here, plus obviously that 400 skill damage factor will allow you to get those, firing off with the insane damage output. But what's really good is you're gaining the frozen effect too. And this is a very key thing with, obviously, Toha. Because Toha needs to be dealing basically normal attack damage range to fire those balls. So obviously enemies are able to walk out if they've got more march speed, and you mitigating that by applying a frozen effect, right, which is reducing the march speed by 20%, is actually huge for a Toha march. On top of this, you got to remember you are also shredding their magic defense reduction, plus having their freeze, target on this skill too. On top of this, you get in skill crit rate bonus and defense, plus even more march speed and even hero skill damage bonus, right? So you can see, to be honest, a lot of the stats you have with the Valen is really, really good with your Toha. So that's why a lot of people have been using it, right? So I do like that. It's a really cool one. One thing that I'm going to give an honorable mention to, and I'm not too much of a fan of it personally, and I've seen people try it, which was Toha Lilia. This is only an honorable mention because it's kind of trying to take the best of both worlds, right? You're trying to get the best AoE mage coupled with the best single target mage, right? It's kind of the best of both worlds, but it doesn't appear, to be honest, to perform any way better than Toha Bertrand or even Toha Valen. Just think those marches are just made for each other and just synergize better when it comes to just Toha's kit, right? But you can also do some other funky stuff, right? One other hero that I do want to mention and people have been using, and it's the support heroes, right? Fear and even Indis. Both of these heroes are actually surprisingly good if you don't have that Bertrand, right? If you don't have a Bertrand and you do have a really good Fear, maybe she's awakened, someone might rock it on, right, as a support-based march, and it will just boost up your main mage march that you'll be running, which could be your Lilia Valen for now, right? So it's a really good and interesting way of just opening up a new avenue with Toha, right? So that is obviously with Fear and Indis, right? So that's basically the bread and butter of all the pairings. Honestly, you've got your Toha Bertrand. This is the go-to number one. No other match compared to it does the most mage damage in single target factor. So these are the guys you want to always go for if you are trying to make this guy work. However, the other options, as I've said, is going to be your Toha Valen for me as your rank 2. And then probably your support marches here as your rank 3 choice. And then, Lilia there as the honorable mention, right? So we've gone through all the skills. We've gone through all of Toha's pairs now. So let's go down, obviously, the easy choices, which is the artifacts and the war pet, right? So the war pet is really easy. The really easy one. This is kind of came out at the same time as well as these heroes, and it is the Shadow Faydrake, because the Shadow Faydrake is going to do some nice damage factor onto the target as well. However, what's really good is the Captive, right? Captive is going to allow you to put a damage bonus of 6.25%. As you can see from my stats, this will vary from war pet to war pet, depending on how good your war pet is. But you're dealing more just straight up damage to that single target, which is what Toha wants to do. So this is a really good pet to have. You can go for a follow-up build, because the way we follow up with this war pair, you're not really caring about the amount of damage it's dealing. What you are caring about is the uptime of this duration. So once you even get the Enduring Shadow Hunter to increase this to like 3 seconds and sometimes possibly 4 seconds, I'm going to test if you can get it to there. You are then obviously doubling up again and refreshing that timer. So it's a really good little way of just keeping up the maximum single target damage you can put onto this hero, right? If you were looking for other choices though, what you could do, since this match does kind of want to survive out there, I'm not gonna lie, you could run the Sand Lizard. This is just gonna heal your march. I think this is one of the most flexible pets in the game. You can just run this, to be honest, on most heroes, because a little bit of healing just means you can sustain in that PvP combat if you don't have an insanely good Shadow, Faydrake, right? Another one you could run, if you do want to run it, and it's a single target DPS choice as well, is going to be Thunder Lizard. This thing does an absurd amount of damage, guys, and it's a very sleeper pick. And if you go down the crit route, which you can see I'm starting to go down now, even on my Thunder Lizard here, if you go down the crit route on this pet, you are going to do some insane damage, guys, with that pet and Toha. I will promise you, so do not sleep on that, right? So those are going to be honestly my 3 war pets. I'm going to suggest you might think Sapphire Faydrake, however it doesn't really work. This guy doesn't really ensnare Scorch or Freeze unless you're going to be using it specifically with that hero, which is like Valen, for example, right? And just any other pet, to be honest, isn't in my category of go-to war pets, unfortunately, right? So, with that said, let's do the last bit, which is the artifacts, right? And sadly, you can see I have the Tear of Arbonne, and you can see I basically use my Toha, honestly, as a support mark. I want it to do some damage, but I do want to basically use it as a support for now. So that's why I kind of got my Tear of Arbonne. Not gonna lie, it does an okay job, especially for a free-to-play and low spender. It gives you can see, 62% extra defense, guys, which is insane. Plus, obviously, reducing damage taken by 5%. That is a massive amount of just damage reduction applied to your march just through a artifact. So people might sleep on just the raw stats of this, right? And you can obviously use different magic options that have the same stat line. Obviously, if you want to go for a more free-to-play offensive option, everyone will go for the Phoenix Eye. But obviously, the one to go for with these boys, unfortunately, is going to be, in my opinion, the Mirage Orb. Oh my lord. This thing does an insane amount of damage, and it is basically, I would again almost say, designed for them, right? Because it's going to do an insane amount of single target DPS to a target, as well as a half amount, as you can see kind of from the animation, to two other targets. And it's going to knock up those two targets, which is just crazy from playing this, right? And what's crazy about the Airborne is it's allowing you, obviously, time to deal DPS. And on top of that, obviously, whenever you're gaining buffs, which you always do with Toha, you're gonna increase this actual artifact damage output, right? All the way up to a maximum, it says, of 21% if you get it to the, you know, max 1, right? So this is crazy at level 1. As you can see, from level 1, it's insane. And if you have this even at level 1, I would recommend putting it on, because Toha is gonna take full advantage of it, right? One other free-to-play artifact you might unlock, and I do want to give an honorable shout-out to, is the two epics, right? So Lakeside Rhapsody is just a free-to-play option, right? That's why I'm giving it a shout out. It actually does some okay AoE damage. I'm going to be leveling this up next season and showcasing it off, because I do want to put where my, money where my mouth is. This is a level 1 artifact. It's doing 1,000 AoE already to 2 targets, which is crazy for you, right? On top of this, you can see you are able to deal even more damage every time you are casting basically a Scorch, Freeze, or Ensnare with a cooldown of 30 seconds, right? So it's really, really powerful effect for just straight up free damage for a free to play. That's why I'm going to suggest, if you have gone through any of the Forge of Light events and unlocked this, you are able to use it. I would recommend using it, right? And obviously the one goat, the OP goat, the magic bomb goat. Obviously we have to give a shout out to this, right? If you've got this and you are super free to play and you've just rolled and you've unlocked Toha and you're thinking about using him and you haven't got really any legendary artifacts, obviously this is the lowest of the low to go. So that's all of the info you're going to need for Toha, right? So what we're going to go down is the talent pages, right? So we're going to go down the main page that I am running currently. Then we're going to go down the different, obviously, routes of, obviously, the magic tree and the support tree when you're going for different style of builds on Toha. Welcome to the first talent page that I'm going to call basically Pure Stats. So this is basically the best page that I have basically put together that is purely for stats. And it's going to help, obviously, your Toha benefit the most, especially if you're going for a Toha, Bertrand plus a Orb. You're gonna have a really good, obviously, understanding of what this tree wants to do, right? So we're gonna go straight away into the magic tree. It looks a little bit crazy, but I am gonna explain how you're gonna prioritize your stats here, right? So obviously you're gonna put 5 points into magic HP. You're gonna grab 5 points straight away into the magic speed, and you're gonna get 5 points in intimidation to unlock your magic maelstrom, right? With these first 16 points, the reason why you're doing it in this order is pretty simple. You want, obviously, the HP stats. Move speed is so important for Toha. It's so underrated. And this is the most amount of march speed you can just possibly get, since it's the, unique tree-specific talent. So you are going to get 15% compared to 10%. It's going to help you deal damage and get away from damage too. On top of that, obviously 4% flat extra hero skill damage is a no-brainer, right? So while we go all the way through that Magic Maelstrom, if you've not been using this, you'll be sleeping under a rug. This is just allowing you to deal more damage way more consistently. It's going to shred their defense a little bit for you and obviously allow you to ignore their defense, so you can just hit a little bit harder, right? So from here, the ending is very simple. As you can see, you're gonna go 5, 5, 5, and 1. 1 is really important to actually go on elemental boost here, especially if you are using the Mirage Orb specifically, right? Because this is gonna cast a buff, right? Anytime you cast your rage skills, you're gonna get that buff effect of gaining HP for 15% for 4 seconds, and this is going to trigger every 10 seconds, right? So it's going to be really good for you to keep this buff up, because it's going to trigger that, you know, additional effect for your Mirage Orb. So it's a very powerful, just 1 point that you're going to basically maximize with your entire march, right? So now we're going to go down back, and with your next 5 points, I just get this out of the way, and I really do enjoy doing this. Just put 5 points into this overall health. You can see it's 2%, and because of that, you're going to get a bonus of 4.5% health, which is very key in PvP. The more health you have, honestly, the less damage you're going to do to your hospitals, because your units are going to survive longer with high HP and a super high defense, basically, to basically fight against all of the attack coming in, right? From here, what I actually do is go for the 5 points in All Conquering first, because I do want to make sure I'm taking the least amount of damage as possible. I just like doing that. The more less damage I take, I'm firing off. And to be honest, I don't really care too much with rage, because obviously I know I'm going to generate enough rage over time while I'm firing off these balls all the time for my deputy to obviously get empowered, right? Which is the Bertrand here. So what we have is Foresight. I think this is honestly all you realistically need if you want to go for a little bit of rage in the build. It's just a 25% chance to basically get 75 rage after casting rage skills. So every time you basically casting those balls, that is going to potentially give you 75 rage, which is really, really good, right? So this is a really powerful way of just getting basically a bunch of rage to your Toha. So with your last 2 points, it's up to you where you want to put them. I personally put them in Magic Attack. It's a flat 1% attack buff. You could lean towards, you know, trying to get 20 extra rage, but I have a different talent tree for that, which is the next one, right? So this is, as you can see, more of a pure stat-based build. It's trying to maximize on the more, you know, relevant stats that you want on any march, especially in PvP, especially Toha, since it is all passive base. So why not just take advantage of just go maxing out on your passive base stats and just, you know, flourish in that PvP scenario. So that's the tree. Over to the next tree, which is going to be the rage base, and it's a little bit similar, and you'll see obviously some changes in there, right? So this is going to be more of a tree if you are, you know, wanting to generate a little bit more rage. If you are not liking the amount of rage you're generating and you basically want to use your Toha with maybe Valen or Bertrand, and your Bertrand's not awakened or not that good, you could run something like this instead. This is going to generate you more rage, so in theory you should have more uptime on your deputy hero, which is going to obviously help suffice some extra skill damage out there, right? So we're going to go down the same route as before, where we go for the HP, the march speed, and the skill damage with Magic Maelstrom. We then go straight and get Egoism, Wither into the Cry Havoc, and then obviously an elemental boost for the insane extra HP. Even if you're not really running Mirage Orb, honestly, just gaining 15% extra HP is just too good not to make and take, right? So just take this. You're not gonna fault it. I know it's, you know, you want to deal more damage. I know, but trust me, just do this and you'll be so much happier, right? So once we've got that, you can see what we're gonna do is put 5 points into overall health, like we did before. We're going to put our 5 points into Foresight like we did before, and now we will put our full 5 points into Head Held High. This is going to suffice that extra little bit of rage if you're really feeling like you're not dealing it. And what I would personally do with this build, since you are trying to generate rage, most of the time it's really good, honestly, since you are a mage player. You got to remember you have a unit affinity against infantry. So if you are targeting infantry to charge up your rage before landing onto, you know, your main target with, you know, a yellow bar archer or yellow bar, you know, mage, whoever's in the back line closest to you, honestly, 2 points in infantry, you know, counter tactics, why not? 2% flat extra more damage you're dealing, which is really good. That's your normal attacks, counter attacks, every damage. It's just a flat damaged out bonus to infantry, which is 2%. So I would definitely take this, allow your Toha to generate its rage now with the auto attacks from him, obviously the foresight, and when you get really high up to the rage meter, you can then switch targets, hit whoever you need to hit, and then go back to an infantry unit, right? And just keep doing that kind of play style with this build, right? So really powerful build there. If you like it, you can run it. You know, that's the difference between both builds. Those are the ones that I would recommend running on Toha. There is going to be one more build, but I am still experimenting with it, so I'm going to wait for a little bit more, you know, testing, and I will give you guys my thoughts on a very spicy build which might come up in the next coming weeks for Toha. So let's go and finish up this video. Since we've done all of the talent pages now, we've gone over the skills, we've gone over the artifacts, we've gone over the war pets, and we've gone over all of the pairings. That is going to be my ultimate guide to Toha in 2024. So that is with all the current heroes in the game, obviously without the new generational free heroes. Maybe if you are waiting, you know, to look at those heroes to invest, that's a really good call, right? Because you don't know if these generational free heroes are just going to way outperform Toha and Bertrand, similar to how Mag and Zeta has absolutely basically obliterated Singeron and Freygar, right? So who knows? So maybe hold on your horses on the Toha investments until you know what the generational free heroes are. But if you've got him and you want to know a little bit more information about him, hopefully I've answered all your questions. And if I have, smash a like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Noobs are sneaky like always. And this has been my ultimate guide to Toha. So stay safe, stay sneaky. Peace out.